Righto, so let's get started. So the first thing that I want to do is the master model method. Using you could do it for anything. So just happens that for this one I've got some 3D geometry in there and I've split it apart. But you could just use a master model just to share locations for screw bosses for whatever your project is. So I really it's quite easy to do. It's quite a straightforward thing to do to add in a derived part of a component into another one. So I'll just show you how to do that because it's quite powerful and you never know, you might actually use it in some of your projects, right? So let's go into our mouse surfaces here. And in here, so let me just hide off. Oh, sorry, I didn't open it. And in here, we've got all our parts split. And I want to just come up with some locations for the screw bosses for the between the bottom and the sides. Okay, so let's just start by thinking about the height. Okay, so where do we want these screw bosses to be? So we need a plane for them to sit on, and it'll all become clear when we look a little further. So let's just start there. Okay, 20 down. And let's just start with this. We can always tune this later on. So on there, then we're going to do some sketching, and I'm just going to start placing some circles to give me a location for my screw bosses. And I'm going to say, I'm going to put one there, and possibly one here as well. Okay, and I'll actually just make that 3 because I'm going to use M3s, and let's make them all the same, just so as it helps me keep track that I know this is for an M3 screw. We're going to be using M3s everywhere anyway, so okay, so these positions look alright. Quite happy with them. Now, I don't see any reason to go any further. So we've got, when we're putting these screw bosses into the base, into the bottom, we'll be passing a screw through the bottom, and then we'll be screwing into this component. So the hole in the bottom will be a through hole. And then we need a hole that gives clearance for the head for the screw, so as it's not sitting out here, so as we don't see it outside, it's sitting inside somewhere. So there's a number of circles that we need, and there's no need to complicate this reference sketch any. So let's just finish that, and we will have a look. So we'll have a look here on how we can get this into the other part. Now we need both of these. We need the work plane, and we also need the sketch. So we're just going to rename this. We'll call this base side work plane. We'll call this base side screw bosses. Okay, so let's just save this. And then we go back to our assembly. We can hide off this component here. We can regenerate everything. Now we want to pull that sketch and work plane into this bottom component. So we do that by just double clicking on here. And now we're in the bottom component. We can see our mouse surface's derived part there. Okay, so we just want to edit that feature. So when we go edit derived part, we can see here, this is the solid body that I pulled in. Okay, but what we want to actually pull in is the sketches. Okay, so we got, this is the base to side screw bosses. So we'll click here to add that, and we want the work geometry as well, which is the plane. So if we just expand that out, we can just click here to include that, and then we click OK. Now I can see them. They've come into this part in the assembly mode. So we don't really need to be in assembly mode anymore. So let's jump back and go into let's jump back and go into the actual part itself, and we can see there is the the solid geometry, there's the sketch, and there's the work plane. Okay, so let's just start sketching on the work plane. Okay, so let's select the work plane, and we will project in the center point here these sketches. Actually, I will take, yeah, we'll go with the center point, and let's then hide that off. Okay, and then we can, do our first sketch. So this is the hole that the screw will be passing through. It's a 3 mil, so we'll make that 3.6. Then we've got a hole. The next size hole is for the head of the screw. So I should have added a dimension there, and I'm going to estimate that to be about 6. I think it's 5.6 for the head of that screw. And then we want the actual screw boss itself, the actual cylinder, and I want that to be 1.5 millimeters bigger than the circle for the head of the screw. Okay, so let's then recreate that at all of these steps, at all of these points. Now there are other ways that I could create this feature and add these as an intelligent feature, but you need to kind of have that locked down, and we're in the process of design and we don't really know what we want. So let's just keep it all nice and simple, and this is perhaps one of the easiest ways of sharing geometry around, is through that master model technique. There's another way as well which we'll look at. So let's just equal these all up, and then we can start making features. Okay, so there's our sketches done. Now we can see we've got some issues straight away. Okay, and we should probably tidy those up. So this one seems okay. This one's not too bad. They're all a little bit too close to the edge. This one's probably the only one that's okay. So let's go back to our surfaces and let's open up our sketch here. Okay, and let's just look at it from the bottom. Might give us a better perspective. And let's just pull this one in here. Maybe go a little bit further actually. We're going to start encroaching on the PCB there, but that's fine. And let's do the same there. Let's pull these in a good bit. And let's just do that one a small bit more, just for good measure. Okay, and let's hit save there. Okay, and back to the bottom. And we can regenerate this part. See those screw bosses have updated position, and that's looking a little bit better. So let's start extruding some geometry now. Let's just hide off that work plane. So let's go to extrude, and let's start off with the outer ones first. Okay, so we'll create the actual cylinders. We'll go the opposite direction through to next. Let's keep selecting the outer circles. Make sure you select the circle and not the region, because otherwise you'll have to select a number of regions. Okay, so select the actual curve. And click OK there. Okay, so you see I've selected the region there on that one. So let us change that. And if I hold down Shift, that will allow me to deselect that and then select that curve. Okay, and let's just turn on the sketch again. And this time let's do the through hole for the actual screws themselves. And we're going as a cut through all. Okay, so there we go. We can see that through all cut. Now we're going to do this guy here, but we want this to start 1.5 millimeters down. Okay, so let's do an offset surface, 1.5 mil down that direction. So minus 1.5. Hide that one just so as we don't get confused, and then sketch on here, and we can just simply project in those curves, because I have my settings, it sets it as solid geometry and not center geometry, so as not as construction geometry. So let's hide off that work plane, and we can then hide that sketch. So now we want to do an extrude. We want to use these curves. We're going to cut the geometry away through all. And there we go. So now we've got clearance for the screw head, got clearance for the screw body, and we've got the actual screw boss that everything sits on. And if we have a look, let's see, have a look at a cross-section view, you should see that's nice consistent thickness all the way up. So if we're 3D printing this or injection molding it, it's looking good. Okay. All right. So now that's the geometry recreated on the bottom part. And I've just realized I've actually just managed, must have been accidentally made this into a sheet metal part. So I'll just convert that back to a normal part. Must have accidentally clicked that somehow. Okay, so now we want to replicate those features in the side. Okay, so let's go through the same process again. So we'll double click there, and we will edit the derived part. Now, actually, let's do it in the actual part itself, because I think last time we did it in the assembly. So this time, let's just open that part, and let's just edit the derived feature there. And we want to include the screw boss sketch and the screw boss work plane. So when we click OK, we'll see those pop in for us. Okay, so it's really quick, really handy. Okay, so on this one we are going to be screwing into this. So we need a hole. So this is 3 millimeters, so this is too big. So we need a hole that's going to be small enough to allow a self-tapping screw to actually start biting into the plastic. So we'll just reference the center points again, and then we can turn off that sketch that's in there. So just two circles this time. So sorry, I should have entered the dimension there. So I'm going to make that so it's about 3 millimeter self tapper. So I'll make this about 2.6, and sometimes this is a bit of trial and error getting this right if you don't have data from the manufacturer. And even if you do, sometimes you need to try this out in different dimensions. So then this is the hole, and I want the actual outer of the cylinder to be 1.6 millimeters bigger. So let's go ahead and model these at the other locations. Okay, so we'll add in our constraints, make them all equal. Now we can hide off that for now, and let's start extruding these out. So we'll do the outside first. Okay, and we'll go up to next. Okay, so this one kind of joins on here a little funny. So we just need to be careful. Now we're doing a cut through there. We don't want it to break through this surface, so we'll see where that lies. So you see there I've selected a region again, so let's just fix that first. So hold on Shift, deselect that, and I can select the sketch. Okay, and then let's do the holes. And it's a cut, and it's through all. So I can see that is going to cut through, so I do need to move that. Okay, I could do other things to make this sit properly over here, but we don't want to get into that. We just want to go through the processes. Okay, so we need to move this, and we probably need to move that in. So this wall thickness is about 2. That's roughly on the center. So if we move that in maybe 4 millimeters, so we'll maybe start adding a dimension to that. So let's go back to the actual driving part, the master model as I'm calling it, and we will go into our sketch. And this time we're going to add a dimension here, and we will add this one in first. I'm not even going to change that, I'm just going to leave it as is. As I keep saying, we're just in the process of designing, so 30.5 should move that in by 4 millimeters. Let's just hide off that, and also we can hide the sketch, and let's save that. And when we go to the case inside, and then we regenerate this, we should see that pop in, and that's coming through nicely there. Okay, so that looks good. And we just need to double check on the base, because this will have moved the base as well. So let's just regenerate there, and we can see the base is now lined up. So let's take a look at these parts. Let's get rid of the transparency on there, and let's take a look at a half section going through those screw bosses. Okay, so there we have, so the screw's coming in from here. I'll add it in a sec. It's going through that hole here, and then it's going to start chewing into that, so it's screwing into there. So it's the head of the screw will sit here, and it'll start pulling that towards there. So we have a nice little arrangement there for screwing these two plastic parts together. Means the head of the screw is nicely hidden, and we've got some nice internal interfacing geometry here, and it's all controlled off here, so we can start moving this around if we wanted to. Let's say it was a little bit too high. Let's double click that, and we wanted to say just drop that down. Sorry. Let's say we wanted to just let's go up a little bit by an obvious amount. Okay, and we go back to our assembly, and we regenerate these, and we can see everything pop up. Now it's causing an issue here. We don't want that, so let's pull that back down. We had it in a really good spot. So let's just go back in and change that. Okay, -20. Okay, but you can see now that there's a really good, nice, solid relationship between all of them, and we changed the position on them as well to move them in and out. So we've got total free reign to start doing that. Now we can see we've got some interferences. It's okay. We can deal with that a little later. Okay, so that's some screw bosses. And now I think, so we can see we've got some interference here as well, so we need to reposition the batteries a little bit, but that's fine. So now we need to, let's put in some clearance of this component around the wheel. But first of all, because we're hitting off the PCB, let's just raise that up a little bit. Okay, so let's edit that part. It's not going to do it because I've got it open. Okay, so let's just edit that. And it is this extrusion here. So we'll just go in and edit that sketch, and we can just turn it wireframe, just so as we can see. And then let's raise that up. So the PCB is 1.6 millimeters. So let's just bring that to 17.5, possibly. Okay, and let's see what that looks like now. Okay, so it's gone a little bit too high. We could probably bring it down a little bit, but that's okay. So let's get out of that half section view and let's turn that transparent. And now let's add in some clearance around the wheel and the switches, just so as we have clearance there. No interference. So once again, let's go to the side. Let's edit it in context. And we can we don't need to create any new plane, I don't think. We can perhaps just sketch on this plane. Okay, and we can, to make life easy for ourselves, we can pull that in. Oops. Let's pull in that edge, that one. And let's do the same for these switches. Okay, so I think we really just need a rectangle, I think would be the most simplest. So let's just start doing that. And let's do it by 0.5, I think. Probably the smallest that I go to at this stage. Okay, so once again, you're still in the design phase. You're just figuring a lot of this out. So there's no need to, you're not going to be accurate first time. We need to keep an eye on this gap. This is an obvious one. So we just pulled in this full surround geometry, so we can actually just offset that really easily. So let's offset that by 0.5 also, and then this one by 0.5 too. And let's just add in this dimension. So we've got 1.5 there. That's okay. That's a fine. That's okay for this level of prototype. So we're still in the parts. Let's do an extrude. We want to cut the material. Let's start off with these guys. We're going in the right direction. We want to go through all. We want to do that as well. And oops, not that one. Five profiles. Let's just start that again there. There we go. Okay, so now we have a nice clearance around those parts, and it's related to those parts. So once again, if I start moving everything here, I'll see these update with me. So let's just do a quick change just so as we can see it. And let's move these switches. Let's see, we have them at 10. Let's just move them out to 11, just so as we have a little bit more space on, a little bit more land on that actual piece of plastic that we were just keeping our eyes on there. So, okay, let's save that. We can see them moved. Let's regenerate, and we can see our sketch goes with it. So we got a nice relationship there, nice and simple, keeps track of that for us. All right. Sorry. Turn that visibility on, just turn the transparency off. Okay, so let's see. That's the screw bosses there, and the clearance around the wheel in the internal module. So I just skipped a little bit further ahead, and I just added in some self-tapping screws here, and I went for, let's see, what are they? They're 8 millimeters long. They could be a little bit too long, but I'm going to leave them in for now anyway. One thing that we do notice is that the heads are a little bit bigger. So this head is diameter 7, and I've gone for, I think, a diameter 6 here on this. So I'm just going to increase that up. So I'm going to go to, I think, 8. We'll try 8 on this. Okay, so if we edit that part and we come in to our sketch here, and oh, sorry, the wrong sketch. We actually referenced that sketch to the earlier one, which is there, sketch 9. And let's see, so there it is. That's our 6 millimeter, and this is going to go bigger as well. So this outer one is going to go bigger because it's 1.5 out from there. So let's do 8. And we can see it's gotten considerably bigger, but that's okay. We're not going to go searching for the right screw. Not just yet. So we can see now that this this boss has gotten quite a bit bigger. There's probably a little bit too much clearance around here, but that's alright. That's okay for now. It's okay for this one. We can manage with it. Okay, so let's just move these batteries back a little bit, and to do that I need to just go, so this is 8 millimeters here, so I think I need to move that by about 10 millimeters, I think, back. Okay, so I have a couple of constraints around that battery. So let's just try -7. That's got us quite close to there. So we're going to have to adjust the PCB. Let's just see where we are. It's gone a little too far. Let's go back another bit. That's actually okay, because we're going to be creating a feature around this. So we're going to be adding some geometry onto here. So we're only going to be taking a slight bit off there. So let's just adjust that 1 more mil. I think there should even it up nicely. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Okay, so we're all saved up, and I think the next step then is to do a similar approach here that we did here with this rib. So the next stage in our plan is to do the same up here. So we've got a couple of steps in this one. So let's try that, and we will come back in another video and do that.